to another episode of Feminine Truth Podcast with your host, Mary Miranda. Today, I'm bringing you an episode on choosing to be single, child-free, and celibate. And this is more of my own journey. So, this is for a lot of the women who are in their 30s or late 30s, which is going to be a choice that a lot of us feel a lot of shame. Not only we feel the shame within ourselves, but like society shames us because we are single, we are child free and celibate. And obviously, we don't fit into the box of the societal expectations, what people tell us that we need to be married, we need to have children, we need to have all these things figured out by the time we're 30 or in our mid 30s. And if we don't have those things figured out, even closer to your 40s, you're a failure and people shame you for it. So I kind of wanted to talk about like my journey when it comes to these three things and not fitting and conforming to society and the expectations of everyone else and being shamed by it. And the first time that I ever experienced as bad, being shamed by it, was after my divorce. So I divorced 2 years ago and I tried getting back into the dating world, but things haven't really worked out simply because I haven't met the person that's for me. And the reason why I made a conscious choice to be single, and it's not because of the lack of admirers or men. It's because I'm truly, genuinely just want to be in a deeply committed relationship with myself. I truly want to just be in a relationship with me and decenter men, which I have been doing the past 7 months. And for me, the priority, it's my inner peace. And I'm focusing right now on my online projects. I'm focusing on this podcast. I have another podcast that it's about Latinas. So I'm trying to get that project moving. I'm trying to also have relaunching my business again, my coaching business again, with something that feels very ethical to me, because I took a step away from the coaching industry as I had known it for the past few years, because I was not aligned with how capitalistic it felt anymore. And I was not aligned with a lot of the marketing tools and things that I was taught. And I was just not aligned with where I was. And I think that's another reason why things never truly worked out, because it just was not authentic with who I am. So I'm trying to come back with things that are more ethical and are more aligned with me, with who I am and what I stand for. And integrity is one of my core values. So I'm focusing right now on that. I'm focusing on my business. I'm focusing on this beautiful podcast. I'm focusing on my other podcast. I'm just focusing on certifications that I'm doing, like just so many things that I'm trying to work on. And there's not enough time in a week for me to do everything that I can. So I'm putting all my time, energy, and effort in me, in my vision, in prioritizing my financial goals, prioritizing my business goals, prioritizing all of that, because I neglected that for so many years. And I think I should be doing a podcast of things I wish I had known in my 20s, but don't feel far behind if you are now in your mid 30s or like in your late 30s and you're still figuring things out, because a lot of times many of us still are. So that's another reason why I'm choosing to be single. I love having all the time to myself. I am not willing to share my time, energy, and effort into our relationship right now because I don't have the energetic capacity and bandwidth. And it just feels so good right now to pour everything onto me. And then when I do have time, I spend it with my beautiful niece and my other nieces, and my niece, the main one, which is Bella, because she's the eldest. And I see her a lot and I focus on my family. That's my priority right now. And also, like, I'm not going to settle just for anyone. I'm not going to just go out with anyone that is not aligned with me and that is not a soulmate connection, that is not what I desire. And my standards and my values and what I desire are actually extremely high right now, just because of what I have been through, what I have learned, the work that I have done on myself, that I am not willing to give that up, and I'm not willing to compromise. And I'm not willing to have anyone tell me that I'm too picky, that I'm too high maintenance, or that, which it's not even that. It's just that I've been through so much that I know what I deserve. I know what I desired, and I'm okay when it comes along right now. It's going to be at the right time, and I'm not going to risk also my mental health, my nervous system being dysregulated, my inner peace. Is just not going to happen, and I'm not going to risk how much work I have done on myself just for anyone. And I think like I don't want to say that I have a betting process, because I don't like the sound and how that feels. But I do have a checklist of things that I desired. And the bare minimum for so many men feels like it's the end of the world. It feels like men are just like the bare minimum. They complain about it so much. The opening the doors, the pulling the chair, the paying for dates, the being a gentleman, chivalry, and all of that. Like, it has gone out the window for so many men that they don't think that that is just the bare minimum and like standard behavior and how you should treat a woman. That a lot of men think that they shouldn't be doing that. And as much as I am an intersectional feminist and I seek equality, there's things that are not okay when it comes to dating. And I'm not going to go for a 50-50 relationship. I'm not going to go for bare minimum. I'm not going to lower my standards. I'm not going to compromise my self-care, my mental health, my stability, my inner peace, my lifestyle. I'm not going to risk how much I love myself for anyone. I'm not going to risk so many things anymore, just because I have not met the person that I know like it's the right fit for me. And I just haven't met someone that is on the same path as me, that is ambitious, that is driven, that is very supportive of my endeavors, that is not going to shame me, that is not going to make me feel bad because I want to create content, I want to record a podcast, or I want to create a TikTok. I don't need anyone shaming me for that, or because I want to take a nap, or because I'm doing self-care. Like, nobody has to have a say on that, because this is my life, this is my lifestyle. And I know that the right person, it's going to come one day and it's going to be amazing. But in the meantime, nobody has been worthy of me, and I need to be okay with that. And it's okay, even if I'm single for the next few years, I'm gonna be okay. I am emotionally unattached or detached to anyone. I'm so happy with who I am. I'm so happy where my life is going. I'm so happy with what I'm creating. I'm so happy with it's just so many things that are in the works right now, that makes me fulfilled. That makes me so happy. I'm fulfilling my own needs. I'm taking myself out on dates. Like, if I want steak, I either go and buy it and make myself a dinner here, or I go and take myself out on a date. But right now, the most important relationship that I'm working on, it's with myself, and that's every day. And it's also with my inner child. And I'm not going to compromise anything anymore. And I think there comes a time in one person, the last person that I sort of had an interaction with, that it was so manipulative and gaslighting, to the point that I I wanted to prove myself that I could be in a relationship, that I have what it takes to be in a healthy, conscious relationship. And I wanted to make things work. So I bypassed a few of the red flags. I'm like, no, like, this person said he's gotten therapy. This person said that he's done the inner work. And it just turned out to be that he had a lot of red flags. He turned out to be just a horrible person, in my opinion. And there was a lot of things that I was just like, I am not aligned with the way you treat me. I don't like the way you talk to me. I communicated that. And it got to the point that he would get so mad that I was creating content, that I was creating TikToks, that I wanted to spend time doing self-care. And it's just, he said something one day, like, you have created a life where there's no room for a relationship. And I was like, well, yes, because I was not looking for a relationship. I was building my life. I was working on myself, and I was not interested in having a relationship when I met this person. And I met this person like out in the wild and off of dating apps. And I just thought, oh my God, like there's a coincidence. There's a reason why I'm meeting this person. And I I bypassed a lot of red flags because I really wanted to make it work. And when he would say things to me, there was a point that I was like, no, I know I can communicate. I know how to communicate. I've communicated well in my past relationships, and it's always a work in progress. But this person makes me feel like all these things that I don't like how it feels. And I ended up walking away because it was one, it was not aligned. Two, obviously I'm not going to compromise my standards, my values. I'm not going to compromise what I desire. I'm not going to compromise how I want to feel in a relationship. I'm not going to compromise anything like that. And for a few weeks I did, because I was still getting to know him. And this was only like 8 weeks. And at the third week, I started kind of like getting to know sides of him, parts of him that I just didn't like and I didn't respect and admired. And I was just like, and then he would go back to like being good and a gentleman. Then he would go, like, it was just like a lot of that. And I was just like, okay, like, who is this person? And it takes about, I say, a month, 2 months, 3 months. But the earliest is like the 4 weeks to get to know a person's true colors. So when that started happening, I just completely walked away because I was like, you know what? I deserve better. I don't like how this feels. And it got to the point that I felt a lot of fear. So that's another reason why I'm also like, you know what, like that experience, I'm gonna just release it and let it go. It was an experience, it was a learning lesson, but I know exactly what I don't desire. And I already did a podcast on this, like a few podcasts behind, and like red flags, non-negotiables, things like that to look for when it's time to leave a relationship, which is based a lot of this last interaction and things that I have learned. But if you know your standards, if you know what you desire, how you want to feel in a relationship, how you want to be treated, who you want to be in that relationship too, and it's so much easier to walk away when there's red flags, non-negotiables, deal breakers. It's so much easier when you really know that, to just walk away. And not just because things didn't work out doesn't mean that I don't believe in love. Like, I still believe in love. Like, I gave a chance to someone that was not my type, someone that I was giving him the benefit of the doubt because he said he'd done the inner work. And now I know that I'm not going to put myself in that situation again. And yes, every person is different, but now I don't want to enter something with someone that I'm not initially attracted to, because I used to like go just for like, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna care about the being attracted to him physically. What I care is about the inside. And those have never worked for me. So I need some type of physical attraction to begin with. So I I know that there was a reason why I met that person. And I'm so glad I walked away from that. I'm so glad it's been like close to 8 months now. And I'm so happy. I was never really heartbroken from him. I was more like mad about at myself for what I had experienced. I'm more mad at myself because I bypassed the red flags because I wanted to make things work. I didn't want to have another failed relationship. And I let go of so many things that I should have been like, no, no, you know better than this. And when things started like getting like just too much for me, that was like, no, like I would need to get out of here. And I was trying to find a way to just break things off. And it took a little bit longer than I would have liked. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was so mad, because I stayed longer than I should have. But we're past that and we're so happy now. And it's a huge lesson learned. So yes, choosing to be single sometimes is the best thing. There were things I needed to heal. There are things I needed to work on within myself, which is like the boundaries, which is like non-negotiables, the red flags, deal breakers, like really get clear on those so it does not happen again. And there's also another thing that I noticed, that when you are a very sensitive person, you're very empathic, you're very understanding, when you have done a lot of this inner work, when you understand childhood trauma, when you understand like your inner child, the trauma, the attachment styles, you tend to be so considerate and understanding of people's past. So this person came to me and he just said something about his past, but he had done the inner work. That's what got me, that he said he had done the therapy and the inner work. And for me, it was just like, oh my God, like, yeah, of course, you went through all these horrible things. And even though you had this horrible past, you overcame it. And now you're this person, because he made it seem like he was like a highly masculine alpha male, whatever. And it turned out that it was nothing like that. It turned out that it was like a lot of misogyny, a lot of just like the red pill kind of like mentality. And I'm not aligned with that. So there's a thing that if you are too empathic, if you are too sensitive, you're too understanding, too compassionate, we need to be very careful with our boundaries and not be too understanding of people's past, especially men who say they have like a sort of past that you're not aligned with. And just because we are understanding doesn't mean that we need to give these people a chance, and not to bypass what they're communicating about their past. I know people can change, and that's one of the things that got me, that I'm like, well, people can change, because I've changed. I've healed so much from my codependency, from being a pick me to being who I am. And I've changed a lot of my patterns. I've changed a lot of my wounding. I've changed a lot of things. So I know people can change because I've changed. So I believe that in other people. But like, when it comes as very emotionally abusive, that is something that it cannot be bypassed just because you understand the person's past and childhood and what they've been through. Never let your compassionate, sensitive soul and heart to be too understanding to the point that you are going to bypass shitty behavior and horrible people. So that's pretty much the piece of why choosing to be single, especially because I'm telling you my story. And it's like an empowering move, because people ask me, I'm almost going to in my late 30s. So a lot of people, like, they're like, is there anyone in your life? And it's just like, no, I'm choosing to be single. Now I say it, and it feels so good to be so proud to say it. And I don't care about people's shame. But like on social media, when you put this out there and they know your age, they call you, you're gonna be a cat lady. I'm like, no, because one, I'm allergic to cats and pet dander. I'm allergic to a lot of things. So like, no, I'm not gonna be a pet person. I know that for a fact. And I'm so happy with my decision. But now let's move on to my decision to also be celibate, because you can be single by choice and still choose to be intimate with people, but I'm choosing to be celibate. And it's one of the most empowering. And I just love that decision, just because it just feels so good. And I'm so much happier without it than feeling like this coercive control and force to be intimate with someone that you don't want to. And it just feels so good to have this power and say like, no, I don't desire to be intimate with anyone. I am so happy with this decision. My body doesn't feel safe too at the same time, because it's healing from a lot of harassment, trauma, a lot of coercive control. So it just feels so good to be in this moment that I don't desire it. I don't need it. I don't crave it. It's to the point that I feel just so at peace. And I'm not willing to, as women, it's your choice. You can be sexually liberated. You can be, you can tap into pleasure. There's no shame about it. Nobody should be shaming you for that, because it's your body, it's your choice, whatever you decide. I am choosing to be celibate in this phase of my life. And it feels so good to be just like with myself, pretty much. And I am not willing to open my body to anyone unless it's in a deeply committed relationship. But like I said, I'm not ready for that. I'm not open for that right now. And it's not because I have my heart closed. It's just because I don't have the energetic capacity and bandwidth to be in a relationship at this phase of my life. And I don't even want to get into more details when it comes to that. But a lot of times, a lot of women struggle with intimacy because they don't feel safe with that person. So your body's not going to feel safe opening up and exploring pleasure. And a lot of times men are so selfish that they don't care about prioritizing the women's pleasure and her and giving to her. It's all about receiving for them. And men need to put themselves more in the giver role and make sure the woman is pleased, because there's a lot of women there faking things. Okay. So if you are not feeling confident and opening up and enjoying intimacy, it's also because your body doesn't feel safe. Your body doesn't feel safe either. You have something that's happening. Maybe you don't feel safe in your own body. Maybe you don't feel safe with this person, opening up to this person. So a lot of times it's like, let's take a step back. Let's be celibate if that resonates with you and explore what is going on. But like I said, men these days, and this is my personal opinion and what I have experience with women too around me when we have these conversations, is that men these days don't know what they are doing in the bedroom. And don't settle for mediocre intimacy. Like, don't settle for that. I've done that in the past, and it's not worth it. I've done that in the past where it's been a lot of faking things. It's been a lot of like less than just a few minutes, and that doesn't lead to a great connection. So if this is something that's important to you, because I know this is something that is important to a lot of people, men, women, but I'm talking specifically to women, don't settle for mediocre intimacy. And also, you have to feel safe communicating your needs, what you desire with the other person. But in order to do that, you have to feel safe in the relationship, feel in a connection with this person to voice your desires, what you need for your body to also open up and truly enjoy. So my priority right now, because a lot of people lead with a sexual connection, even men, when you meet men, a lot of times you can be a very sexually liberated woman, and when you meet a person and then you want to take your time, but you meet someone that brings up intimacy or sex like super fast within the first texts and conversations. And a lot of times, like, like they get the hormones and those feelings going, and you end up breaking your own rules, and you have to find a way to create non-sexual connection and intimacy with someone and not prioritize a sexual connection first, because it's what happens with a lot of people. They make this their primary connection. So what happens when you take away the sexual intimacy? Where is that other non-sexual intimacy? Like, do you guys have anything in common? Do you guys are able to carry on deep conversations where there's a lot of substance, there's a lot of depth? Are you able to create a connection with this person outside of sex? And when you take away the sex, do you even have a relationship and a connection with this person? That is the most important thing. So for me, it's really important to create a non-sexual connection with someone. And when that happens, I am going to be happy, because I need a lot of like communication. I need a lot of depth. I need a lot of substance. I need to have a lot of things in common. This is why when I meet someone, I know, like, knowing what you desire, knowing what you want, your values, your standards, having a checklist, knowing your non-negotiables, your deal breakers, your red flags is so important, because you can ask deeper questions. And if that person is not stimulating you emotionally and mentally, and you're not able to create this connection outside of like sexual talk, then what kind of connection do you have, So it's also up to you, but there's no shame if you just want to have like intimacy with no strings attached. It's your body, it's your choice, it's whatever you want to do. But for me, right now, this feels so good. And I don't know. I'm just not in that era. I'm in my celibate era, my single by choice era. I'm so happy with this. And there's also another thing that I've been wanting to talk about. And maybe this should have been a separate podcast, but this ties with this just because they are so intertwined with also being choosing to be child free and consciously choosing not to have children. And there was also like this period of time that I kind of back and forth, like, yes, maybe I do want to have children, maybe I don't want to have children. But this was me trying to convince myself to have a child, just because what if I regret it later in life? And when I really sat down and was in meditation and was just in like more in contemplation, I'm going to put it that way, I've never felt the itch to be a mother. Like, I've never pictured myself pregnant and with a belly. I've never pictured myself like going through those 10 months of like pregnancy or like the 40 weeks. I've never pictured myself since I was little of being a mother, of having a child. Maybe I played with dolls and babies, but I've never felt the itch to be a mom. I've never even felt the itch to get married. It's something that I always said, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to have children since I was little. So I never grew up with that, even though I grew up like in a culture that prioritizes getting married and having children. Like, it was just something that I never felt within me. There's a lot of women that are like, oh my God, like I just want to be a mom. Like I can feel it. It's my dream. Like I don't know what that feels like to feel that. I've never felt that. I have been so detached from feeling that. And I never thought I would get married, like I said, and I did end up getting married at 35, and I divorced 2 years ago, and I'm happily divorced right now. And I do have a connection with him. It's very amicable. It's very great. But there was a moment when I had surgery. I had a uterine tumor. It was 9 centimeters in diameter in my uterus. And it got to the point that I needed to get it out. And it was to the point that the surgeon is like, okay, I'm not going to know what's going to happen. You could end up getting a hysterectomy. And I only have one ovary. I lost my right ovary in 2006, so I only have the left one. And I was so afraid that, oh my gosh, if I lose my uterus and the only ovary, I'm gonna lose any chance to be a mom. And this was 5 years ago. And I was so terrified because I'm like, what if I actually do want to be a mom? But I'm like, but I never had the itch. But it was like this pressure that I needed to, if they save my uterus and my ovary, then I need to have a child. Like, this is my only chance. Otherwise, something could happen later on and I'm not going to be able to have children. And I was just like under so much pressure trying to make this huge life altering, life changing decision. The surgery happened. That's when I was diagnosed with endometriosis. I never knew I had endometriosis. I knew I had a horrible period, to the point that I would go to the ER from pain, and I would be crawl in a ball, like in pain. And the surgeon said, well, you have endometriosis, but the tumor's out. We clear the endometrial tissue. We clear everything. So this is a perfect time for you to have a child. And this is before I got engaged too. And I was in this headspace, that when he found out, that's when he proposed. And that's when, okay, I'm like, I guess like this is my only chance to have a child, to be a mom. But it just never really felt aligned. And things happened where that never ended up happening within that marriage. But it got to the point that it was also like, oh my God, I don't see myself having children. And he also wanted to have children. So that was also another reason why I decided to divorce, because I'm like, well, I know there's like all these reasons why I'm leaving, but one of the reasons was also because he wanted to have children and I didn't at that when I made the decision to separate. And I'm like, he also deserves the chance to be a dad. So I'm not gonna take that away from him. He deserves someone that is more aligned with him than I am. And I also deserve someone that's more aligned with me than he is. And that's also another reason. And I've never told him that. But I, it got to the point that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do what's best for me. I'm gonna choose myself. I love myself, and I'm gonna walk away from this. And it just felt like the very aligned decision. Fast forward to today. I know I have reproductive issues. I have endometriosis, which a lot of times can cause infertility and other things. So I've never tried getting pregnant. So I don't even know if I could have children. And it finally got to this year that I'm like, I need to stop like going back and forth when I already know I've never had the deep desire to be a mom. I know I wanted to do it more because of societal expectations, because what if something happens and I lose my uterus or I get a hysterectomy because of the fibroids or the endometriosis, or I lose my ovary like I lost the right one. And I just like, I'm like, I need to stop. I need to stop this inner conflict and make a decision and be okay with it and accept it. And when I said, I don't want to have children, it just like released so much pressure from me from so many years of feeling like I needed to be a mom. Otherwise, I was not going to be seen as good enough or successful, and I was going to be shamed by society. Why am I crying? So it felt so good to finally be aligned with this decision and be okay with it and understand that this is the best choice. And I've seen a lot of women around me who have struggled with being moms, and I don't desire that for myself. I don't desire to go through postpartum depression. I don't desire to go through the body changes. I don't desire to deal with all the responsibilities that come with having a child 24/7. You are a mom for the rest of your life, especially up until you're 18, that's, when they're considered minors, and you don't get breaks. Like, it doesn't matter if you're sick, it doesn't matter if you have a headache, nothing matters. You are a mom 24/7, 365 days a year. You don't get a break. And you cannot, if you're going through something, you cannot put that in front of your children because you are a mom. And I've also like experienced a lot of the men not being fathers, not being good spouses, not being, where the load falls on the woman and the wife and the mother. The everything falls on her. She's in charge of the kids. She's in charge of everything. She has to think about everything. Like, she has to do the laundry. She has to cook. She has to feed the children. She has to worry about this. She has to worry about that. And it's just like the overwhelming load that mothers go through. I see it. I see it on social media. I see it with people that I know. And I don't ever want to go through that. And I don't ever want to go through the experience of having someone who's incompetent as a father and as a husband, that I cannot rely on him to help me willingly, and not without me giving him a list, without me telling him, hey, you need to help me with this. You need to help me with take care of the children. You need to do this. You need to do that. Like, no, it's like mothering another person. Like, no. And I had to be okay with deciding that I don't want to ever put myself in that position. And I'm not saying that maybe I'm going to attract someone that is going to be a great father. Yes, that could happen. But I made the conscious decision that I don't want to deal with that, and that I'm okay with this decision. And like, I don't want to be the cause of a child ever having to heal from me as a parent. I don't, just the thought of me raising a child and traumatizing that child without me even intending to, emotionally neglecting one day because the kid was trying to say something to me and I was on the phone and I was not paying attention, and maybe he or she thinks that I neglected him, feels unseen, unheard, not enough, unworthy. And then he carries or she carries those wounds through adulthood. And now that person has to heal from me as a parent. Like I cannot even think about traumatizing a child enough to the point that they have to heal from me as a parent. And I just cannot bear with that. I cannot bear with those emotions. Those are too much. And raising a child in today's world and society is something that I also don't desire. And I'm not willing to bring a child into this world the way it is today. And I'm at the age that I am just like not willing to also deal with a lot of responsibilities when it comes to that. And this is not out of being selfish, because I feel like a lot of times when women explain the reasons why they don't want to have children, we are seen as selfish, but it's like, no, I'm consciously choosing this because I've seen too much. I've witnessed too much. I've healed too much from my childhood that I know that I never want that for a child of mine. So there was one moment in 2020 when I contacted someone that can tap into your spirit babies. Like they can tell you how many babies you're going to have and all these things. So I connected with this person and she did a reading for me. And it turns out that I have two spirit babies, a girl and a boy. And I created this relationship with them. This is more like you woo, very spiritual. And it was a beautiful experience, but it never felt like it could come to fruition in real life. Like I'm like, oh, I know I have two spirit babies somewhere in another dimension, in another world, in the same timeline, but in a different world. But it never felt like it could come to this 3D reality on Earth and I could be a mom. Like it just never felt like that. But just the idea that I have two spirit babies was very comforting for me. And the most important thing out of all of this is that I do have four little girls, four nieces, and I have a nephew, and they are my world. Like I would do anything for them. I desire to be a role model for them. And lucky for me, like they do see me as that. Well, one of them, because she's the one that's the eldest. So she sees me as that. So for me, that's the greatest gift, to be an auntie. And I can be a role model. I can be a guide. I can be their safe space. And that's very important to me. But with them, I sort of experienced like, can I be a mom? And it was just more like, oh my God, when it got too overwhelming, like you can return back the children to their respective parents. And whenever they need help, like they know that I can be there for them, you know? So that was like one of the things that I know, that I am very maternal. I do have a lot of this mothering, nurturing energy, but it just never felt within me that I could be pregnant. I just cannot even visualize it. I tried visualizing it so many times and it just never happened. And when I was so rooted into this decision and I said, no, it's not something that I feel. It's not something that I desire. It's not. And it took me a long time to make this decision and not have this inner conflict, not go back and forth like yes, no, maybe yes, maybe no. I spent so many years being undecided on that. I spent so many years because I'm like, okay, maybe I can freeze my eggs. I considered that before I was 35. And it's so expensive to freeze your eggs. But I'm like, I'm like, do I really want to go through with this? I consider that just because like, and even before my niece was born, I did date someone who had a child. So I was sort of like a stepmom for like 4 or 5 years. So I got to experience that too. And it was a lot. It was so much because I pretty much had her every weekend, because he was a workaholic, whenever he had her, I pretty much was the one who like took care of her. So I got to experience that bond, and that was a beautiful bond. So when I broke up and I left, I was heartbroken. I was heartbroken for her because I miss her, because she was part of my life, but she was also heartbroken. And I never want to put a child in that situation. And this is another reason why I don't want to date someone who has children. I don't want to date single dads, single fathers. I don't want to date a man who has children, because I don't want to put a child through that. And I don't want to have children. So I don't want to date someone with children. And this is something that is very hard for men to understand. And I get so much shame for this, because they're like, oh, the age range that you are, when I was on dating apps like a year ago, when you are trying to find a man that's within the age range that you desire, and most of them are going to have children. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But I also know that that's not going to work out for me. And I know that my person is out there, and it might take long for me to find it. It might not take long for me to find that person. It's okay. I'm okay. Like, I know that I don't want someone who has children. So if you are in this space where you are single by choice, maybe you're also, whether you're celibate or not, it doesn't matter. But the child portion, if you're a single mom, obviously, like, this is just my thoughts. I respect everybody's decision and opinion, but you also have to think about, like, if you want to date someone who has children, especially younger children, because those children can get so attached to you. Children can also be impacted by a breakup. They can suffer, and you never want to break their little hearts. And not only that, but like the co-parenting relationship with them. And you also have to, it's never going to be up to your schedule. It's always going to be when the parenting plan is always going to have to be the vacations around that, your dates around that. And I don't want to revolve my life and my schedule around somebody else's schedule, because their decision between him and the ex, it's going to be a priority over whatever you desire. So it's something that I don't desire, but if a lot of people are okay with that, it's something that I've dated men with children. This is how I know my decision is so rooted, because I've experienced this. I've experienced dating men with children, because before it was not a deal breaker before, until I've been on the dating scene and I've dated men with children, and I know now that it's not something that I'm aligned with. Like I said, I was in someone's life for 4 or 5 years. And through the dating apps, through going on dates, meeting these people, like, they're never available whenever you desire, because they have a priority of being a father. So that's always going to be the priority. So it's also like a lot of women want to also be the priority. So there's also that conflict. But whatever you choose, make sure it's something that it's aligned with you, what you desired, your standards, your values, what you want for your life, how you want to spend your holidays, how you want to spend your vacations, your weekends. Because this decision came to me when I matched with someone who had a child, and he moved towns to be closer to the child. So that was one not issue, but that was like, when I met him, and I was like, oh, because I hadn't matched with him previously. And the first time it didn't work out because he lived far away. So now he moved closer to this child. Okay, fine. You're closer. Okay. Makes sense why he's doing the things he's doing. But then, like, when I met this person, like, he had the child like 70% of the time. And it was like every other weekend, and it was like a few days during the week. So like there was never time whenever I wanted to, because we never met in person. We were trying to plan a date, and it could never happen because of his schedule, because of his responsibilities. So I also have to respect that and be like, hey, like, I respect that you're a father, that you have all these responsibilities, but this is not something that I'm aligned with. And this is the person that said to me, well, you're never going to find someone around the age range that you desire without a child. And I've met people that I did, like there are I like good candidates without children, just that there were other things that didn't align with me. So then I know they exist. So make sure you get very clear on what you desire, get very clear, and think about the future when you date these people. And this is why you have to date with intention, and you have to know, I cannot stress this enough, that you have to know your standards, your values, have a checklist, your non-negotiables, your deal breakers, your red flags. You have to know your vision for life, what you desire for your life. Is this person aligned with that? Does this person have these qualities? How you want to feel in that relationship, who you want to be as a woman for yourself within the context of that relationship too, how you want to feel in that relationship, how you want to be treated. This is so important. Do you want to date someone with children? If it's okay, amazing. If it's not, be very rooted and don't let anyone shame you for your reasons. And whomever calls you a cat lady, or you're gonna die alone, like, you know what, it's so much better to be alone and be probably a cat lady, something that I'm never gonna be. But it's probably so much more than dating shitty men and dating people who are more on the situationship spectrum, or dating people who just make you cry. It's so much better to choose to be single and celibate and child free than to deal with all those men. Like, just focus on you, focus on your goals, focus on who you want to be every day. Like, you're worthy and enough as you are, but you can always strive to be someone better. You can always like desire to be someone better, or not. You can be completely content and happy with who you are right now, and that's completely fine. You don't have to be here like trying to be your best version every day, trying to hustle, trying to elevate. And no, you can be completely content and happy where you are, not even desiring to climb up the ladder in your job, not even desiring to be anything else, and just be at peace with your decision. Like, I know what I desire for my life, and I know that I'm not gonna settle for anyone less than what I desired. And I'm not going to compromise any of my values, my checklist, nothing anymore. And I haven't felt better in the last like 7, 8 months since I've made the decision to be single, celibate. And this year, when I was very rooted in being child free, that was like a huge weight off my shoulders, and just be content with where I'm at right now, being accepting of my reality right now while working for my future goals and focusing on me. And it's just so much better, because when you are too much centering men, when you are always thinking about meeting and dating and you don't take time for yourself, like, it's going to be so much easier to self-abandon when you are in a relationship. So you also have to prioritize the relationship you have with yourself, create that intimacy with yourself, that like emotional intimacy, mental intimacy, like really get to know you in body, mind, and soul, and prioritize that relationship over any other relationship that you would ever have. Focus on you, focus on your goals, focus on loving yourself even more, focus on, if you need to heal some stuff, like heal whatever it needs that you need to heal. If you're fine with where you are, like accept that, but enjoy your life. I'm working on that. I'm working on being more present every day. I just quit caffeine, so I'm so happy today. It took 3 weeks to decrease the milligrams, because I didn't want to like quit cold turkey. So today, this week is finally no caffeine. So I'm working on healing my hormones even more. I'm focusing on my health. I'm focusing on my finances. I have so many things. Like, I have a list of goals. I have a list of things where I desire my life. I'm so focused on that right now my heart is open, but I don't have the energetic capacity and bandwidth and time and effort and investment to be in a relationship, to do what it takes to be in a healthy, conscious relationship. When the time comes and I'm ready to be open for that, and I meet the right person, it's going to be incredible. But in the meantime, I'm happy. I am excited about this podcast. I'm excited about if more things that I want to create with my life, with projects that I'm working on. So I hope that this resonated with you. I kind of just wanted you to get to know me a little bit more in my decisions and overcoming the shame that anyone puts on you because maybe you're 30 and you feel you're single, you feel like you're missing out, you want to have children, like you can still do all those things. But right now, if you are in a place where you are focusing on you, then that's okay. You never know what's going to happen in 6 months, in a year. Maybe you're going to meet the person and whatever it is that you desire. But I assume that a lot of people that looked at the title of this podcast, they probably have very similar values of choosing to be single, child free, which is a huge one, in celibacy. So I kind of just wanted to go dive deeper and go more in my decisions and where I'm at in my life and share more of me being more open and vulnerable. And hopefully, if you resonated with this, you can reach out to me, you can comment, you can put a do like a 5-star review, 4-star review, whatever it is that feels aligned with you. Reach out to me on social media, on TikTok and Instagram or Facebook, and let me know if this resonated with you. Let me know your struggles with making these choices, especially the child choosing to have children or not, which is something that a lot of people struggle with. And if you're choosing to be child free like me, like I want to hear from you. I'm trying to find my people, my community. But I hope this helped you get to know me a little bit more or feel comfort if you're also on this in this path, if you're also at this phase of your life where you are single, celibate, and child free, especially in your late 30s, if that resonates more, or early 40s, wherever it is that you are. I love you. Thank you so much for spending your time, your energy listening to this podcast. So let me know your thoughts, and I cannot wait for the next episode.